What's up, everybody? Happy Horror Sunday. It's your boy Blaze Horror. Today's video is going to be on horror movies that came out in 1990. And then I'm going to go sometime this week and do horror movies that came out in 91, 92, and so forth. Okay, let's get started. First up, we got Kevin Bacon, Stir of Echoes. This one's still factory sealed because I got another copy that's open. I also got the DVD as well. In this movie, Kevin Bacon and his family moved to a new house. His neighbors are extremely friendly, but only because they're hiding something in the house that him and his wife and kid just moved into. He starts getting visions of a young girl. Later on, the visions start getting more heavier and more apparent. He figures out who the girl is and what happened to her. It's a great horror suspense film. Yeah, it's very good. Normally Kevin Bacon, he stars in great movies, whether he's the lead in a movie or not. So we got Stir of Echoes. Next up we have a classic. Really don't need to give much intro on this other than the name. Silence of the Lambs, another 1990s horror thriller, serial killers. It's good times. Next up, we got two of my favorite. Quite comical though. This slasher has always been a comical little dude. I really wish he would have did the remake. Which shouldn't have been a remake of the Leprechaun, but here we are. Leprechaun, the original 1 and 2, came out in 1990. Original first one starring Jennifer Aniston from Friends. These are another two movies not many horror fans need an introductory to. Classic. Next up we got Robert Rodriguez and Tarantino's From Dusk Till Dawn. Another classic. Is one of my favorite vampire movies of the 90s. There was quite a few vampire movies that came out in the 90s, as a matter of fact. If I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong. I think John Carpenter's Vampires might have came out in the 90s, starring James Woods. But Dusk Till Dawn is definitely one of my top, next to The Lost Boys, top vampire film. We also got that other new horror film coming. I think it's 2024. The Vampire in a Boat. I think it's an adaptation. I wouldn't say it's a reboot or remake of the old black and white Nosferatu vampire film. In this vampire movie, Dracula will be on a ship. If you haven't seen the trailers, you can look it up. Just look up new Dracula vampire movie. Probably show up like that. I think it's called The Last Voyage of Dracula. But I'm not sure. So with Dusk Till Dawn, another great 90s movie. Oh, it's a classic. Leatherface. Oh, this is its own class right here. This movie, I might have to end my horror Sunday night viewing this before bedtime. Great movie. We all know the gist and the background story of Leatherface and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's another great 90s flick. For a minute there, throughout the 90s, horror movies are coming out left and right. They also made a bunch of what I like to call Saturday or Sunday afternoon WB, Channel 11 type films, because the special effects really ain't that great. Which I'll be going to be doing a creature type feature video on horror movies of most of them are going to be B-rated, C-rated. Like you got the Chupacabra on the ship, another 90s special effects where he's really not part of the surrounding, it's just like dubbed in there. Alright, so next up we got Stephen King's It, which is nuts. For some reason I thought this came out like 89, 88. So I did put this in the 1980s video of horror movies of the 1980s, I believe. Shut up, cat. I got a cat that just likes to meow. Gotta bring his cat neck. So next up, we got another cult classic, Demonic Toys. They also have another one where Demonic Toys verse The Puppet Master, which I've been wanting to order that film, whether it be DVD or Blu-ray. If I could find it on VHS, even better. But this is definitely one for the horror collection, and it's definitely a 90s made horror movie with more of an 80s background feel to it. So that was classic for me. We got a cool image on the disc. And this is only half of my horror movies from the 90s. I got a bunch of other sci-fi, horror thrillers, all kinds of stuff. So I probably will be doing a part 2 for 90. Right before I do the 1991 horror movies that came out in the 90s. Alright, another classic, which I thought came out in the end of the 80s. But it came out in 1990. The Candyman. Because the Candyman can. It's another film I love. I didn't mind the remake too much. Well, it wasn't so much a remake because I had the original mother. The girl who was pregnant in the original film, which was cool. The actor that played Candyman in that movie, I believe he should play, being that Jamie Foxx, I don't think he's going to play Spawn anymore, being that his medical condition. But the guy who appeared in the new Candyman, who steps up and becomes a Candyman, well, till the end of the movie, because this guy shows back up, takes his position back. To me, that was a game plan from the beginning with the Candyman. He's slick like that. But that guy would play an awesome Spawn, I believe. Alright, so next up we got Bruce Willis. Shout out to Bruce Willis and his family. Sixth Sense. You know, I watched this movie. The first time was the best because it's one of them horror dramas that you don't see like the big picture, and you're automatically gonna try to figure out what's really going on. And it turns out the whole time something about Bruce Willis. I don't want to give any spoilers because I'm sure there's a lot of people still haven't yet seen this film or recognize it as a classic horror, 90s. All right, next up we got another one that I enjoy up to like the ending until it gets way too sci-fi-ish, and that's Phantoms. I thought they had a great cast. I loved Liv Schreiber. I thought he was great in this movie. What else was he in? Oh, he was Scream, where he made his appearance, and he's in a bunch of other ones. Great film, great actors. Up to the point where it gets really sci-fi. It's sort of like how the remake version of The Blob starring Kevin Dillon. That movie got to that point where right when they came up out of the sewers and guided the military and the doctor didn't want to let them up out of the sewer with the girl, so he blew a hole in that piece. Old bazooka. And right there became like straight sci-fi. Like the rest of the movie was, I thought it should just played out fully the way it was. But never mind with me, I'm just rambling on. I get caught up in films that I really enjoy. Next up, we got a little bit of sharks. Deep Blue Sea, starring Michael Rappaport, Samuel Jackson, LL Cool J, and so forth. It's a cool film. A little slow in the beginning, but when it picks up, I thought it was cool how these sharks go into this place. Just hunting these people down. Oh, they're military grade type sharks. They were trained and actually created to do what they do in this movie. But it's pretty awesome. That's one thing, man. I stay away from the ocean. I go on a dock and go fishing. Put my feet in the sand. I don't like swimming in the ocean because you never know what's underneath you. They say sharks don't attack you, something that's hungry enough, it'll pull you underneath you. Alright, next one is another classic. 1990s, The Craft. Still haven't seen the the follow up to this, which a lot of people call it a remake, but it's a follow up to this film. I just watched this. The main antagonist witch in the film, she's in a slew of movies, Generation X with Edward Norton, Edward Furlong. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Edward Furlong, man. Love you, brother, man. Keep putting out the movies you keep popping up in, and very enjoyable. But yeah, so she's in Generation X, and she's also in, I just watched something recent with her in it. The Deuces Wild, I think. Yeah, I think it was The Deuces Wild. This is a 50s style greaser type gang movie. Almost like The Warriors and The Lords of Flatbush and so forth. But she's great in every movie. I like that actress. She's real great. I never knew, but I believe she used to put in work on the stage. I think she was more of a stage actress. Cool little image on the disc. That's a pretty sweet image as well. That should have been the cover. Yeah, right? That should have been the cover. As opposed to what this is. That would have made a better cover right there. So anywho, on to the next. Oh, Stephen King's classic, The Langoliers. Definitely has that 90s vibe and filming to it with the little Langolier things flying around. Like the little cartoons put in the real world. It was pretty, I enjoyed it. It's an entertaining, if I didn't grow up back then, if I didn't come up back then from the 80s into the 90s, I probably, right about now, I probably would have never watched the film. Passengers are on a plane, something goes down on the plane. The Langoliers, they wind up in this place where there's no other people around, everything looks abandoned, but these Langoliers are going around like Pac-Man, eating up all the, I want to call them pixels, eating up everything. There's like nothing, dead space. Classic. And we got one I haven't watched, man, since it came out, and it's starring Patricia Arquette, Stigmata. Stigmata, she gets all the, she gets the holes in her wrist like Jesus from the spikes, the nails, her feet. She got the, yeah, it's kind of twisted movie. Now, for me to fully explain it, I would have to watch it again, being it's been so long to properly explain it. But it's a good film. I could always look up the trailer on YouTube. To me, I come from the time and age, you can't go wrong with a movie with Patricia Arquette in it. One of my favorite movies with Patricia Arquette is starring Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, a bunch of them. Harvey Keitel, not Harvey Keitel, Dennis Hopper, is True Romance by Tarantino. A script that he actually sold, I believe, to make a couple other movies. Alright, next up we got Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's one of my favorite Frankenstein movies, other than the original old school ones, and the one with Frankenstein meeting Abbott and Costello was classic. But this was starring Robert De Niro, which was cool because before this he's just like banging out the gangster movies. So when he did this, and he plays a raw Frankenstein. You want to talk about a ruthless, nasty version of Frankenstein? This is the film right here. The dude is like, man, what a performance by De Niro. And he's not a genuine horror movie actor. He's like, he could do pull-off comedies and gangster, we already know, typecast for that. But he's great in this. Next up we got A Haunting. Called The Haunting. This is another class. Man, this is a great movie too. I like that. I really enjoyed this Haunting movie. And I'm not a big fan and really get into movies like this too much. But there's certain ones like this, and then 13 Ghosts and The Haunting are my favorite. Now, they got The Haunting in Connecticut, which I watched it once. I enjoyed it then, right then and there. I don't think it's a film that I can watch too many times. But The Haunting, classic. Next up is another film I watched since it came out. And that's Dark City, starring Kiefer Sutherland. We all know Kiefer Sutherland from The Lost Boys, Stand By Me, Young Guns, 24. I think most of the newer generations of horror fans these days probably know Kiefer Sutherland, or in general know Kiefer Sutherland more for 24, if anything else. The Lost Boys in 24 probably, but he done a lot of movies. He done a movie with Woody Harrelson called Renegades, which it's the Cowboy Ways. Cowboy Way. I picked that up the other day with stock from my store, which I'll probably watch that at some point. Alright, so next up I got another one of my favorites, creature type films. Mutated Rat. The Relic. Ancient relic comes into the museum in New York. And in one of the crates, they got these little red berries. A rat gets in there, eats the berries, and goes into a big cocoon, and he gets, you want to talk about a sick creature? If you haven't seen this, look it up, view it, watch it online or whatnot. What a great creature film. Man. The SWAT rolls up into place, they come down through the skylights. And going down, the guy said, pull me up. And as they pull him up through the roof, he's half of him. Because this thing jumps up. This mutated rat that's probably about 15 feet tall jumps up, bites the dude in half. And they have a big benefit going on, a big showing. A bunch of wealthy people from around the city are there at this exhibit, and they all get stuck in the building. So there's plenty of blood, and there's enough extras in the movie to keep that blood flowing. Classic. Alright, next up, well, I say last. This is another one of my top creature sci-fi alien films. Species. Natasha. She also appeared in Ghost of Mars with Ice Cube. And Pam Grier. Classic. Shout out to Pam Grier. This is awesome, man. This is another one. Now I want to watch like 4 of these movies already tonight. Now I'm going to have to flip a coin to narrow it down to like 2 to 3. Great movie. Haven't seen it? Look up the trailer. You're sure to enjoy it. Alright, last but not least, in video number 1 of horror movies that came out in 1990. Starring yours truly, Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, Sleepy Hollow. It's a Disney tale put into a more raw form. The dialogue is great, as usual with Johnny Depp. Christina Ricci and Johnny Depp work great, blowing their lines off of each other in this film. I don't want to tell you who the Headless Horseman is. Perfect pick, because they make it creepy. The special effects in this movie around the tree where the Headless Horseman's at, it's just a classic set, man, for a horror movie, especially for this tale, this storybook tale. What an awesome movie. Awesome special effects. Really good times. So, once again, thank you for viewing my content. Thank you for all the views in my last video I put up. I believe was Bring It Back to the 80s. I think it was part 3. Thank you for all the views and the likes. Much love to everybody out there viewing my content, and to my followers especially. Feel free to like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification buttons. I got some more videos on the way. I'm going to start pumping them out as much as I can for everybody. And as you can see, I have plenty of media and stuff to work with. So we got plenty of media and stuff do some videos on. So now I know not to do that too much again in videos because I just spun it all the way around. But anywho, continue having a safe and fun horror Sunday, and I'll catch you later with some more videos. Peace!